Okay, hello everyone. I am excited to be talking to you today. This is an impromptu Facebook Live. We are going to be talking about what to do when the protocol no longer is working, or maybe the protocol never worked. You're suffering with an adrenal exhaustion problem. Doctors don't believe in the term called adrenal fatigue. You're not getting answers. You're told that your blood tests are normal. You're crashing in the middle of the day. You just don't handle stress the way that you used to. You can't focus. You can't concentrate. You have very low libido. Your hormones aren't balanced. You have hot, cold flashes. There's no motivation. You're not sleeping. You don't feel regenerated. It's like someone drained your batteries. You don't have exercise tolerance. If you do exercise, you're crashed for the next week or so. So what's going on? That's what I want to talk to you about today. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja. And today I want to talk to you about not taking this the wrong way, but how do you know when the problem isn't your adrenals, but it's you. You're the problem. This may be something that you may not want to admit, but sometimes, in addition to not having the right protocol or strategy, the thing that's killing your success is what your thoughts are and what your beliefs are. And I want to keep that in check, and I want to raise your antenna to see if that's a problem for you. Because the truth is, if the adrenal protocol isn't aligned with your mindset and your beliefs, you're screwed. You really are. And 99% of the time when I see someone who's stuck and their adrenals aren't moving the needle to get the results they're looking for, it's because of the fact that it's their mindset. And it's not just because they're doing the wrong thing. What your thoughts are doing are they're not serving you. So if you struggle every day and you want to be able to quadruple your energy, say in the next 12 weeks, then you're going to want to listen to what we're going to be talking about tonight. And these are the 3 warnings that it's your mindset. All right, so 3 warnings. So again, now, not to get me wrong, more often than not, probably almost all the time, your protocol is wrong too, right? Because the question I get is, what's the best supplements for adrenals? I know when someone asks me that question, your protocol is going to be wrong. What's the best test for adrenals? Because if you ask me that, you potentially are going to get the protocol wrong. And why am I going to say that? I know this, Facebook Live is talking to you about the 3 things to tell you about whether or not 3 warning signs of your mindset. But if you're only thinking of this as an adrenal problem, then your strategy is wrong. Because when stress impacts your body, it impacts you at the cellular level. Nothing happens in isolation. It has to be processed by your brain. Then your brain has to communicate to the rest of the body, in this case, the adrenals. But the adrenals have to impact the rest of the body with the hormones that they secrete. They secrete anti-inflammatories, which is going to settle down your inflammation, which is systemic. It's going to support your immune system. It's going to help produce energy, which is systemic, and it's going to help balance your electrolytes and minerals, which gets into your kidneys and gets into your bone health and your thyroid and parathyroid and other endocrine systems. So it's never just the adrenals, and that's a whole other Facebook Live. So I can pretty much guarantee if you're only thinking about this as an adrenal problem, your protocol is wrong. But that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about when you have some warning signs that your mindset is wrong. So let's talk about that. Because even if your protocol is right, you say, okay, Joel, I agree that the adrenals are not just the only thing. I understand that the brain is involved. I understand that your immune system's involved. I understand that your hormones are involved. I understand that your detox pathways are involved. Your genetic susceptibilities are involved. I understand your genome, your biome, your healthy flora is all involved. I understand all that. But what does this mindset have to do with anything? So let's talk about that. First thing I want to say is the difference between knowing and doing. knowing and doing. That's the first warning sign that you are the problem. Because all the people I work with, and it's not your fault, the doctors you've seen in the past, they've been helpful and they are trying to put the pieces together for you, but they're very limited. And they may not have heard about Epstein-Barr virus, or they may not believe about adrenal fatigue, or they only do a saliva cortisol test or a blood test, or only believe about Addison's disease. They don't know what a Dutch test is. They don't know about genetics. So you have to understand and learn for yourself, and I applaud you for that. But what happens is you run the dangerous risk of researching way too much. So when you research way too much, you get into the knowing, but you don't get into the doing. And I had a dear client that we worked with, and I remember looking at her, and she was really studious and studying her notes and wanting to know all the results, and we would go over them together, and I would say, hey, look up for a second. She'd be down looking at her notes and trying to figure out where is it in here that it's not all adding up. And I said, let me ask you this, what would you be doing if you didn't have this problem? She looked at me like, I don't see that in these blood tests here. I don't see the answer to that. And I know, of course you don't see that. I'm asking you, the person, what would you do if you didn't have this problem? What would you be doing that's different? And it was like a light bulb hit her. And she was like, yeah, you're right. I don't have to wait for things to be perfect. And I don't have to look for all the knowing answers before I would do, right? Because if you plan a trip, you're not there yet, but you still have to do the legwork. You still have to know your itinerary, right? You still have to plan, and you still have to plan the things that you want to be able to be doing. And that doesn't involve knowing everything. So that's the huge, huge problem, the difference between knowing and doing. What could you be doing now that doesn't require you knowing? Right? I mean, really, what could you be doing now that doesn't require you knowing? Like, could you be getting outside and getting good oxygen? Even if you don't understand ATP production and Krebs cycle and B vitamins and, electron transport chain, I hardly understand that stuff, but I know I could get outside and go for a walk, or I can get sunshine, or I can eat healthy foods and have minerals and my B vitamins that will come from nature, not from a box, or that's not fortified, or that's not enriched. I understand all that, right? What can I be doing that doesn't require me knowing, right? That's a huge aha, where whatever protocol you're doing, and it's really the doctor's job. It's the doctor's job to say, hey, Mrs. Patient, guess what? You're the patient. And what that means is, I love it that you, for at least me, the way I talk to you is, I love it that you're right up there at the front of the line with me, figuring this out and giving me feedback. But at some point, I want you to be the patient, and I want you to, doctor's orders, I want you to not research this tonight. Doctor's orders, I want you to go out and not think about your health. I want you to go out and give yourself permission to do the things you could be doing without knowing, right? So that's number one. That's one of the warning signs that you know that your protocol or the reason you're not getting better is because of you. You are researching too much. And this stuff is interesting. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're passionate about this because you want to get your health back, no one's going to care more than you, than your health. You've been exhausted on the sidelines for so long, and you're not getting the answers that you want. And it's war. I've said this is war. It's up to you. If it's going to be, it's up to you, right? If it's going to be, it's up to me. I get that. But you have to balance the knowing and the doing, all right? You're not always going to know everything before you do it. I once heard, before I had my twins, if we waited for everything to be perfect before we ever did anything, nothing would ever get done, right? And you got to ready, fire, aim on that one. Now, it's a double-edged sword. If you do too much without knowing, you can get yourself in trouble. But at the same time, if you do, too little and try to know too much, you get yourself in trouble too. So that's the first one. The first way that you know that you're sabotaging your improvements because you're focusing more on the knowing and not on the doing. Number two, which kind of falls in line with the knowing and the doing. And are you result based? I'll believe it when I see it. Until I finally get a little bit more energy, nothing's working. I can't ever do this. Whenever I exercise, it crashes me. My glucose levels are low. I'm hypoglycemic. I have Epstein-Barr. I'll believe it when I see it. If that's you, you're sabotaging your health. I really mean that. And let's explain this a little bit more. We talked about earlier that the adrenals go deeper than the adrenals, right? I mean, it goes to the brain, and it starts with the HPA axis, right? The hypothalamus, the pituitary, the adrenals, but it actually starts with the AHPA axis, which is the amygdala. What is your perception of the stress, right? Is it a threat? Are you aware of it? If it's something you're not aware of, are you gonna have anxiety and panic and overwhelm and fear? Can you control your sympathetic response to know that you're gonna handle it no matter what happens? It's your impression of the stressor, right? So if you only believe something when you see it, and you don't realize that you can control the meaning of the stressor before it even hits the HPA axis, you're never going to get better. Let me repeat that. If you are only focused on the outcome and you say, okay, now that I have energy, I feel better, my adrenals are better. Nothing happens overnight. It doesn't. It's a marathon. It's a verb. It's a process. Like I tell people on an X-ray finding, you need to have at least 40% bone mineral density before you appreciate bone mineral density diminishment on an X-ray. So what happens if you have 30% diminishment? What happens if you have 20% diminishment? What happens if you have 10% diminishment and it's not appreciated on an X-ray? Are you going to say, well, I don't have any bone problems, density problems, even though I feel weak, my muscle mass is down, there's fractures in the family, but my bone mineral density doesn't show it. I'm tied only to the outcome, good or bad. That's the wrong way to look at it. You got to realize that just because you're not appreciating something right now doesn't mean the work, bad or good, isn't happening to get there. Right? So when you tie in your results to the process and not the end result, that's where you're going to start to see improvements. And when you realize that your impressions of the stressor impact how that stress is felt, so that you see shifts before that outcome has actually been attained, meaning I'm putting more meaning on things, I'm not as overwhelmed, I have a better outlook. When I crash, I don't let that tie me to future things. That's when you know that you're getting better, right? That's when you know you're getting better. So why not start to understand that if the adrenals work as a system and they work from the way that your brain processes it, to the way that your gut health works, to the way that your inflammatory processes work, to the way that your elimination processes work, to the way that your cardiovascular processes work, to the way that your emotional responses work, and your gratitude responses work, and you see improvements that way, even though the energy may not be there right away, then you're going to start to get the results. So number one, the difference between knowing and doing. Number two, to tying your results to the outcome, and not understanding that certainty comes from within, right? And knowing that you're going to get better. You are getting better. And even if you don't believe it, putting that energy and mindset into understanding it's not just fixing the adrenals, it's fixing everything in my body before I get better. That's number two. And the last way that you know that your body is, it's you are the problem, and you're getting in the way of your recovery, and it's not necessarily the protocol or the what you're doing to get better, it's your mindset, is that you're magnifying the problem to impact every aspect of your life, right? So let's say, for example, you don't have energy today. Then all of a sudden you start to realize, okay, I'm never going to have energy. Or not only do I not have energy, everyone hates me. Or not only do I not have energy and everyone hates me, it makes me have more pain. And when you domino effect one thing that's not working and extend that into your entire life, you're not going to get better. You're not. And you have to realize that when you do this, it's you magnifying the problem. And what I would suggest you do, not to say it's not real, not to say you're crazy, not to say that you haven't felt headaches and joint pains and fatigue and people have gotten upset with you, or they're disrespectful for you, or they don't understand you, or it impacts your relationships and your career. Not to say all those things aren't impacted, because they are. But when something is not working on a particular day, and to extrapolate that to everything being impacted by that from that one thing, you're not going to get better. And you need to identify that right away. You need to understand that, hey, I'm grateful for this feedback. I'm grateful for this feedback. Here, I'll give you an example. I was supposed to go visit my father the other day, and I went to the airport, and my flight wasn't until July 25th. It wasn't even June 27th. I went on June 27th. It wasn't even July 27th. It was July 25th. And I could have allowed myself to get frustrated. And if I had an exhaustion and fatigue problem and I made a mistake, I could say, oh, I'm so dumb. I have brain fog. I never get anything right. I'm always exhausted. That's always like me. I'm never going to get better. It also impacts my people liking me as well. And now I'm not going to be able to get that job. And I mean, because I need to be quick on my feet. Like, when you allow something like that to impact every other area of your life, you're not going to get better no matter what protocol you put together. You're never going to do that. And doctors need to identify that. I mean, I go over that with my clientele. We go over how much is this impacting your decision-making processes and what are you focusing on? And not only, hey, we need to know about your genetics, and we need to know about your Dutch test, and we need to know about your inflammatory markers and your viruses, but what's going on with the things that you're doing that's sabotaging your improvement levels? What's going on there? Because so what I did, why was I grateful for that? Well, I was grateful for that because I'd been working stinking hard, right? And I hadn't had a lot of rest time. And to make a mistake like that tells me that I'm overworking. And I'm grateful that it didn't impact anyone. My dad already knew. I sent him my itinerary. He already knew my plans. So when I called him from the airport and said, oh, it turns out I'm not coming today, he's like, yeah, I know you're not coming for another month. If I would have extrapolated, oh, he's going to be mad at me, he thinks I'm dumb, now, the whole world thinks I'm dumb, the whole world is exposing me for what I am, that's a mind that's extrapolating too much of it. So let's summarize. Number one, when you know you're the problem, the three things that I see besides your protocol, now I would say it's your protocol too, right? But number one, the difference between knowing and doing, not waiting for everything to be perfect before you do anything. And knowing that is important, and not knowing enough is important, but knowing too much where it stymies and impacts your doing what you could be doing before you're perfect is a problem. Number two, results-based, not believing it until you see it, and not understanding that certainty comes from within, knowing that you're going to get better. It's your birthright to get better. Everything is involved for me to get better, and everything's a work in progress. And I am grateful for noticing the things that are improving. And as they improve, I'll start to see these things really improve in terms of results-based. And number three, not magnifying the problem that impacts every aspect of your life that's not impacting. That still involves gratitude, and that still involves understanding that there's things to still be fixed, but that doesn't extend into everything. And there's other things, and acknowledging the things that are getting fixed so that you're keeping score of not just the things aren't working, you're keeping score of the things that are working too. You need to keep score of the things that are working too. So anyways, if that made a lot of sense to you, then please sign up for my 45-minute no obligation consultation. We do this for those that are serious about getting their health back, that realize that, hey, I might not have the protocol right, and I want to fix that, but I also feel like I don't have any of these. I don't think about knowing and doing. I don't think about that. And I'm researching this until it's, wee hours of the morning, and people think I'm crazy because I'm spending so much time on this. Number two, I don't see results. And I only see results if something gets better, and I didn't see the work in progress. And number three, I do extrapolate when something's not working, it impacts every aspect of my life. And number four, I'm ready to get my health back. What you want to do is you want to go to the truth about adrenal fatigue, all one word, /apply. The truth about adrenal fatigue, all one word, /apply. And again, it has to be for people that are serious, people that are ready to get their health back, people that know that not doing anything and sitting on the sidelines is more costly financially, but more costly in what you can't put a price tag on in terms of the relationships, the experiences, the income, the family memories, the life you're missing out on. And those that realize that are resourceful and realize that you may not be in the same, state, country, continent that I am, but we see people all over the world and we get you better. So anyways, my name is Dr. Joel Rosen. Make sure you check out my application. It's the Truth About Adrenal Fatigue /truthaboutadrenalfatigue.com/apply. And I look forward to ending your adrenal fatigue nightmare. Have an awesome evening.